Can you tell us about your first ever tour? Were you like totally nervous and intimidated, or how were you feeling when you went about that?
I didn't really think about it too much, which I think was probably a good thing. I first left, I started in Adelaide and then left pretty quickly to go and tell jokes in other cities.
Yeah.
And I think other comedians kind of leave it a bit late and then build it up in their mind into something that it's not. It's not that big a deal. But because I got out really fast, it just seemed like doing other gigs. So it wasn't something I was worried about, no. Different jokes work in different places, I think, is something you come to realise pretty quickly. So you do have to tailor your material a little bit at times. So you can never get too comfortable at home because people are nice and they get to know you and they give you a bit more latitude with the quality of what you're doing, and you don't really have that interstate or in some other city where it's a bunch of strangers watching you for the first time. So you've got to be a bit careful about what jokes you tell. So I'll probably pick that up pretty quickly.
Have you ever come across an audience where you just went, fuck, like these people are just totally alien to me, we're not connecting, they're not getting me, like what am I going to do?
Yes.
Yeah.
That's happened. And it used to bother me a little bit. It doesn't really now. I think all you can do is just do the best you can.
Yeah.
And if it's going really terribly, do your best to have an okay time with that. After a while, it shouldn't, but failing is kind of fun, as long as you have the right attitude towards it. But you can always try your best. I quite like road trips, so anytime you're with a bunch of friends, just in a van for kind of 10 to 12 hours a day, just going to various gigs is always fun.
So you enjoy that? You don't get like stir crazy going being on the road like that?
As long as it's a short trip, no, I really like road trips. One of the it's kind of dull, but one of the more difficult things is just spend a lot of the day trying to figure out how to get to places and then home again.
Yeah.
Particularly when you're in an unfamiliar city, and I guess trying to save money or like by using public transport, it becomes kind of a big deal.
I'm sure there's going to be some readers that'll be shocked to know that you're not in a chauffeur-driven car the whole time and, being put up by whoever curated the tour that you have to get around on public transport.
Oh, yeah, we're treated very badly. The gig doesn't run anymore, thankfully, but there used to be this gig in Sydney, and I don't want to name it, but it was just filled with hipsters who wouldn't laugh at anything. And I used to hate gigging there, and then eventually just kind of accepted that was how they reacted to things by just not giving any kind of response.
Yeah.
Which was quite liberating, and I started having fun with the gigs. But it was such a weird thing that all these people would go to a comedy gig basically with the intention of not having a good time.
Did you go on that tour with Louis C.K. and just go, well, this is what I want, like this is what I want to aspire to, or did you feel like that's not necessarily the direction you do want to go towards?
Not really. I didn't really think about it at the time because I was really busy doing other stuff. I had a writing job that I was focused on, and I was filming a DVD at the time as well, so I had all of these things going on that I was trying to focus on at the time. But it was, more than anything, it was just a reminder that there's an audience out there for me, and to perform in such big rooms and to do well is very encouraging.
Did you come back from the Louis C.K. tour and go, well, how can I ever do another tour on my own now and have to stay in dingy hotels?
Yeah, it was a pretty quick drop back down to earth after that.
Yeah.
After having been treated so well, and then back to kind of crummy little rooms.
Yeah.
In 5 minutes to nobody. Probably that it's quite dull.
Yeah.
You often hear people saying what happens on tour stays on tour. It stays on tour mostly because it's it's not worth repeating. But I think that's probably more an indication of who I am. I'm a pretty quiet person, but for me, it really is generally just about doing the gigs and getting home, and maybe visiting a zoo during the day or something like that. So I'm maybe it's just because I'm kind of a boring person, but touring is not as exciting as you might expect it to be.
I don't think that just because you don't go out and do a bunch of coke doesn't mean you're boring. I don't think that's like the marker of whether or not someone's interesting.
Yeah.
I hope not anyway. So do you reckon that there are comedians that go out after their tour every night and do a bunch of coke and they're the really interesting ones?
I don't know if they're more interesting, but I could probably give you some better stories than what I can.
No, they'd probably forgotten them all anyway.
When everyone's on and firing jokes, I find it very draining. Just like people to switch off every now and then.
Yeah.
But comedians are generally pretty funny people, so it's good company.
Yeah.
Usually, if somebody's dumb enough to yell something out at a comedy gig, that's an argument I can win. Because most normal people will just shut up. But yeah, it's a lot more rare than people might think, and that's good.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think there's like, a cliche that it's something that, you have to deal with on a regular basis. But no, that's nice to find out that it doesn't happen too often.
Quite often, I was at a gig, I think it was in Bendigo recently, and there was a heckler in the first half, and just getting destroyed by the comics, and she was trying to heckle, and then she just left at halftime because she was embarrassed, and that's something that you tend to find happens. Somebody will think they're helping the show by yelling something out, and then they'll just get destroyed and they'll leave.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
It seems like a particularly stupid thing to do, to argue with someone that makes their living out of having a quick wit. Like,
Yeah.
it's a bit silly. You're really jumping into the lion's cave.
It can be a slow process at the start because promoters generally won't book you if they haven't seen you before. So it's a process of kind of getting recommendations and trying to get little spots here and there, and then hopefully the end goal and end result is for them to maybe fly you over next time and put you up and give you a longer run of paid gigs.
Yeah.
But you can't expect that from the very beginning. So making your own way to places is definitely worth doing. You might have to do it at your own expense initially.